Good day and welcome back to the Family Cyber Clinic. As you know, if you're already subscribed to this channel, the clinic invests a lot of time searching for security threats that are lurking around families, particularly around our kids, with special emphasis and focus on the threats that exist on the internet. We live in a world where we have instant information at our fingertips. Communication is so much easier in the 21st century. But as we've often said or heard, with great power comes great responsibility. Regrettably, this does not seem to be resonating with our teens, as we'll see later. In our modern world, it's so easy to communicate and stay in touch with our friends and family via our smartphones. Normal phone calls, text messages, emails, Facebook messages, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp, Gmail, Viber, I could go on. But with the rise in camera phones and smartphones with internet access, we're seeing the rise of a term called sexting. S-E-X-T-I-N-G. And this is the sending, receiving, or forwarding of sexually explicit messages, photographs, or images, primarily between mobile phones of oneself to others. It may also include the use of a computer or any digital device. It's on the rise. And parents may not know that this is happening. That's why the clinic is focusing on revealing it this week. Children and young adults use the medium of SMS or text messages much more than any other new media to transmit messages of a sexual nature. And teenagers who have unlimited text messaging plans are more likely to receive sexually explicit texts. Engaging in sexting is a dangerous activity for our teens with adverse side effects, and the consequences can be lifelong. During our investigation, we found that most people who sext do so for a joke. Some do it to feel light or sexy. And there are others who admit they were pressured to do it by their friends. Now, why is sexting a problem? I've listed 3 reasons. A photo shared between 2 people can quickly become a viral phenomenon. Sexting could result in charges of distributing or possessing child pornography. Harassment and humiliation are common problems when the photos and messages get shared beyond the intended recipient. In a recent Childline survey, the following information was gathered. Quite shocking, really. The first, 60% of children aged between 13 to 18 say they have been asked for nude images or videos of themselves. Another stat, 40% say they've created images or videos of themselves. 25% of those said that they have sent images or videos of themselves to someone else. Over half have received a sext, and 15% confirm it was from someone they had never met. Sending or receiving sexually suggestive texts or images under the age of 18 is considered child pornography and can result in criminal charges. Sharing nude pictures of others is not only bad, it is a crime. In the research, we found that after images are being sent or after images are exposed, many of our teens begin to self-harm because they're worried or they're panicking. Their world has come to an end. Most suicidal cases are linked to sexting cases. Anything private you share online can be used against you. Now, before we go into the tips or practical ways to avoid this, like we do each week, I'll ask those who are visiting this platform for the first time to subscribe. Click the bell so that new content like this, when it arrives or when it's uploaded onto the platform, you'll be alerted. I will also ask that you like and share if this information is beneficial to you. Don't forget, we upload content every week. Now, let me share the tips that will help and go a long way to prevent sexting. The first tip: set rules for internet and cell phone use with your child or teen. So we've got to set rules, rules. And I wish I could hammer that in hard enough. We have to set rules for the internet and cell phone use with our children or teens. The second tip: discuss the consequences for breaking these rules. You've got to discuss it with them. In the UK, so that you understand, apart from the fact that it's just bad breaking rules when dad and mom set it, the impact, like I hinted, of it being a crime. In the UK, it's an offense to make, distribute, possess, or show any indecent images of anyone aged under 18, even if the content was created with the consent of that young person. And it's part of the Protection of Children Act. So it's a crime. So if we discuss the consequences of not just breaking a rule that has been set by parents, but the consequences go beyond that. It's important that the children are aware of these dangers. The third tip: as parents, we must continue to keep the lines of communication with our children open. We mentioned that during the last upload, that the lines of communication, there has to be an open door policy. The lines of communication have to be open so that they're not afraid to talk to us about anything. And since we're dealing with sexting, they will not be afraid to talk about sexting with us. I'm aware that self-esteem issues contribute to our children getting exposed to this danger. And it's important that we constantly reassure them of their worth and that they should not seek validation from their friends. They should seek it in the right places. And we are the ones who will reinforce that. Okay? So the fourth tip: we need to tell them that if someone demands sexual images or videos from them, they should stop immediately and make sure they report it to the authorities. No ifs, no buts. And the last tip that I'll give us is we need to advise that if they receive sext messages, they should not share them by forwarding it on. In fact, they should not forward unknown messages, for that matter, to anyone. The issue is, if you forward a message you have not read, you don't know the contents, and it could well be a sext message. Ignorance, as you know, is no excuse. It will be very difficult for you to argue yourself out of the fact that you didn't see the message, you just forwarded it on. So just don't forward it on, because you could be forwarding a nude image or video. It's a very brief session this week, but I think that sexting, they call it nudes, sharing nudes. It's on the rise, but it's an issue, and it's an issue the clinic is taking very seriously. Okay? Like we do each week. In the clinic news this week, we found that smartphone microphones are advanced enough to pick up the sound signals of different keys on a keyboard. Now understand this. You have hackers who can figure out passwords just from the sound of typing. The smartphone makers have a lot of work to do to try and correct this one. But basically, there's some applications that you will install on your smartphone that will request access to your microphone. You know, that's by design, and you can understand why they may want access to the microphone, because it just allows for a better experience. Now, if a hacker compromises your smartphone by exposing you to or luring you to install an application, that application will have access to your microphone, but not for the intended purposes. And so you could be keeping your smartphone right on the table by your desktop, and whilst you type, you have an app that is recording the sound waves or the sound signals of what you're typing, and it could deduce your password. So that's crucially worrying. The smartphone companies have a lot to think about as they protect us, or they provide privacy strategies for us. But that's the news. Now, the PowerPoint this week. A man has joy in giving an appropriate answer. And how good and delightful is a word spoken at the right moment. I'm your host, Cyber Pastor Lawrence Edem. Till next week, God bless and goodbye.